What if I told you that everything you've ever been taught about prayer might be completely backwards? That the prayers you've been saying your entire life could actually be reinforcing the very problems you're desperately trying to solve? I know that sounds shocking, perhaps even controversial. But stay with me here, because what you're about to discover has the power to completely transform how you approach every challenge in your life. For years, Smith Wigglesworth kept a secret. This man, known throughout history for his extraordinary healings and miraculous demonstrations of faith, possessed a prayer technique so revolutionary, so radically different from conventional Christian practice, that he hesitated before teaching it publicly. Why? Because it challenged everything people believed about how prayer works. It went against centuries of religious tradition. And yet, the results were undeniable. Financial crises dissolved overnight. Marriages on the brink of divorce experienced complete restoration. Physical ailments that doctors couldn't explain simply vanished. Lives that seemed destined for failure suddenly transformed into stories of triumph. But here's what most people don't understand, and this is crucial. This prayer technique doesn't involve asking God for anything. It doesn't require you to plead, beg, or bargain with the divine. In fact, if you're doing any of those things, you're actually working against the very principle that makes this method so powerful. Has this ever happened to you? You pray and pray about a problem, describing it in detail to God, asking Him to fix it, to change it, to make it better, and yet nothing seems to shift? You might even feel like your prayers are hitting the ceiling, bouncing back without reaching heaven at all. But before we dive deeper into this life-changing revelation, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, what Wigglesworth discovered changes everything. He called it the prayer of recognition, and it operates on a principle that most Christians have never even considered. Instead of asking God to change your circumstances, you're doing something entirely different. You're recognizing something that already exists right now, in this very moment, even while the problem appears to be real and overwhelming in your physical experience. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't just declaring affirmations or speaking things into existence. This is something far more profound, something that operates at the level of consciousness itself. Think about this for a moment. What if the problem you're facing isn't actually the real problem? What if the true issue is your perception, your consciousness, your way of seeing the situation? What you're about to discover might surprise you, because this technique doesn't focus on the problem at all. It shifts your entire awareness to recognize God's perfection that's already present, already established, already complete. Let me give you the exact technique that Wigglesworth taught, because this is where the real transformation begins. When you're facing any challenge, any obstacle, any situation that seems overwhelming, you speak these words with absolute inner conviction. God's perfect solution is already here. I recognize divine order operating now. This situation is resolved in God's infinite wisdom. Now I need you to understand something critical here. The power doesn't come from the words themselves. You could repeat these words 1,000 times like a mantra and see no results whatsoever if you're missing the key ingredient. The real power lies in the recognition that shifts your consciousness. It's that moment when something clicks inside you, when you genuinely perceive the truth behind what you're declaring, rather than just hoping it might be true. This isn't an overnight journey. This practice typically requires consistent application over weeks or months to fully integrate into your daily life and your entire way of being. But here's what makes it so different from everything else you've tried. Most people approach prayer like they're filing a complaint with the universe. They describe their problems in vivid detail to God, listing everything that's wrong, everything that hurts, everything that needs fixing. And with every word, with every detailed description, they're actually feeding energy into the very circumstances they're trying to escape. Has this ever been your experience? You spend 30 minutes in prayer outlining your financial crisis, your relationship breakdown, your health struggles, and somehow you feel even more burdened when you finish? That's because you've just spent 30 minutes training your consciousness to see problems. You've reinforced the reality of lack, Separation and limitation. Wigglesworth discovered that this mental activity is precisely what keeps problems alive and thriving in our experience. The prayer of recognition does something radically different. It stops this destructive mental pattern completely. Instead of rehearsing what's wrong, you're aligning your consciousness with what's already true in spiritual reality. You're stepping out of problem consciousness and into solution consciousness. This is a fundamental shift in perception, a complete transformation of your inner landscape. Think about it this way. When you're trapped in problem consciousness, you're constantly looking at what's missing, what's broken, what needs to change. Your entire focus becomes the obstacle. But when you shift into solution consciousness through recognition, you're seeing from an entirely different dimension. You're perceiving the divine order that exists beyond physical appearances. You're tapping into a hidden truth that's been there all along, waiting for you to acknowledge it. This isn't about denying reality or pretending problems don't exist. It's about recognizing a deeper reality that supersedes temporary circumstances. If you're serious about transforming your spiritual understanding and want more content like this that goes beyond surface-level teachings, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm committed to bringing you deep, practical wisdom that actually changes lives. Now, I want to go even deeper into this concept because understanding the mechanics of consciousness is what makes this technique truly effective. When Wigglesworth taught this method, he emphasized that we're not trying to convince God of anything. God doesn't need our arguments or explanations. What needs to change is our own awareness, our own inner vision. And this is where most people miss the profound impact of what's actually happening during this practice. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for this shift," if you're feeling the truth of what we're exploring here. Here's something fascinating that you need to understand about timing, because this is where many people stumble and give up right before their breakthrough. The consciousness shift itself can happen immediately. In fact, some people experience it in an instant, like waking up from a dream. That sudden clarity, that moment of recognition where everything just clicks and you see the situation from a completely different perspective. But the outer manifestation, the physical evidence of that inner transformation, usually unfolds gradually. Some practitioners see tangible changes within days. Their circumstances begin shifting. Opportunities appear. Solutions emerge, seemingly out of nowhere. For others, it takes weeks of consistent practice before the breakthrough occurs in their external reality. And this is where the real test of your commitment comes in. The key is persistence, without desperation. Do you see the difference? Desperation is still operating from problem consciousness. It's saying, "I need this to work right now, or I'm doomed." But true persistence